Hello everybody and welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again today, and welcome to the first episode of How to Get Good at World of Warships. And this is a series that I'm going to start making from now until probably sometime in 2020, and I'm going to try to cover as many things as I can possibly think of to help people become a better player in this game. And the reason I really want to work on this particular series now is because I'm starting to notice there is a pretty significant decline in overall player performance in the game. I've been playing the game lately, and there's just a lot of questionable things that people do, and a lot of it I think has to do with the fact that they're just not aware of how things are done and how mechanics work and how to play the game. And also in terms of tutorials and stuff like that, a lot of it is quite old and a little bit out of date. I mean, my Captain's Academy series is quite old. Some of it's still relevant, but a lot of it has become out of date. So hopefully, as I make a whole series of these videos over the next number of months, that I will create a comprehensive tutorial series for getting good at this game. This particular battle in the background right now, what I want you to pay attention to is the opposing carrier's airplanes. So opposing aircraft carrier is a Tier 8 Shokaku. Pay attention to where the Shokaku is sending the airplanes. Right now, a whole squadron of torpedo bombers is heading over for the Henry IV. And of course, if you take a look at sort of the potential AA range of the ships in that area, and you'll probably realize that if you were playing a Shokaku, maybe running your airplanes into an area that's sort of loaded with that much AA is maybe not the best idea. Perhaps the better idea is, if you take a look at the minimap, maybe the better idea is to attack things that don't have the strongest AA. So how about the Yamato? How about me in the Roma? How about the Atago that's in the middle of the map? Maybe go after ships that are more in isolation. So among all the ships that were there, perhaps the Yugamo would have made a better target there. Anyways, pay attention to what the enemy carrier is doing, because it's very illustrative of the very first lesson in World of Warships and why this is absolutely essential to have if you actually want to get good at the game. And guess what? It has absolutely nothing to do with knowledge of game mechanics or armor profiles or penetration curves, any of that kind of stuff. The very first thing that you absolutely have to have is the right mindset, or the right mentality, however you want to word that. And in particular, what you're looking for is having a growth mindset. Now, there's two kinds of mindsets that people can have. One of them is fixed, and the other one is this growth mindset. Now, fixed mindset individuals tend to see things as being sort of very much unchanging. So their abilities in doing X, Y, or Z is fixed. When they fail, it's a permanent failure. There's nothing to gain from it. They'll take critical feedback as sort of personal attacks or personal insults. By the way, you'll have to say, pay attention to that Shokaku player, because in case you've been paying attention to the aircraft movements, 5 minutes in, look what happens in chat, by the way. Anyhow. Further on, they don't believe that there's anything to be gained through putting in effort, because, hey, if this is my ability from the get-go, then what more is there to be gained? Now, if you have a growth mindset, this is where things change. Because a growth mindset, you believe that you can get better through practice, through learning, through listening to others, and finding opportunities for growth. When you fail, that's not a problem. That's just giving you the opportunity to go, try new things or to learn new things. If someone gives you any kind of feedback, you go, hey, wait a minute, maybe they have a point. And anything that doesn't work the first time, you put some more effort, you refine your ideas, and you try it again. So going back and again, take a look at chat. What kind of a mindset does that Tier 8 carrier have? Because it's actually quite obvious. It doesn't really matter what kinds of initial feedback I give the person. There is always this cannot be changed, this is just how things are. Not that, hey, running your airplanes into a bunch of Tier 10s is the issue. It's just my aircraft carrier is terrible and I can't do anything. I'm not going to pick better targets. It's not anything else that I do that's at fault. It's things that I cannot control that's at fault. Where if you had the right mindset, you might have taken my initial little comment as being like, hey, wait a minute, maybe you've got a point. Again, you'll notice that I'm going to spend the majority of this game as a low A battleship, pretty much off by myself, not really suffering any issues here. Where in actuality, I would be one of the ideal targets for that Shokaku's armor-piercing dive bombers. So, going back to what I was starting to talk about, the first step to getting better at this game is adopting the correct mindset. Admit that you don't know everything. Admit that you're not doing as good. Admit that your information is not complete. Admit that you yourself are maybe not an expert in the game. And then start from there. Because once you can admit that you yourself are the majority of the problem in your inability to play the game right, and you open yourself up to learning, to taking criticism, to, spending time and doing research on things, then you can get better. And so this video really is addressed also to those particular people, the ones who right now in the game are not doing very well. So hey, maybe you have a 47% win rate. Maybe you're getting a little tired of people making fun of your win rate. Maybe you're getting tired of people judging you for your win rate. Maybe you're getting tired of losing your battles. But maybe you have the right mindset. Maybe you want to learn. You just maybe haven't found the right person, or you haven't found the right tutorials, or you haven't found the right series that tries to communicate the best possible information. Well, if you have that mindset and you have those ideas, then let me help you. And because you're the kind of people that I can actually help. I can't really help people like this particular carry in this game. I tried. I started off trying to point out a few things like target selection, then started asking him, hey, do you know these things like, slingshotting and plane preservation tactics? Nothing. Carrier doesn't know any of these things and just continues to complain about things, which, ironically is probably the reason why he's not doing so hot. Had he taken that time to actually ask me a question like, hey, what do you mean by that? That's where the growth mindset comes in. Because the minute you can ask for help the right way, then there's actually something I can do. If you refuse to admit it and you think that you are the best player in the game and everything else is everything else's fault, there's very little I can do. So, if you can fix the mindset and you're willing to come seek help, then I'm willing to provide it, whether it is through YouTube videos. And again, you can always leave me comments in the comment section about things that you're not comfortable with. Of course, I'm not going to get to it right away because I will obviously schedule things out in order of importance, right? Sort of from most important to least important kind of things. But you can always find me during the live streams on Twitch as well, because during the live streams, I typically will take either requests or, specific individual requests even. Hey, I had somebody come to me the other day and say, I can't make Bismarck perform, like no matter what. And I'd be happy to sit there and talk you through why the Bismarck works or doesn't work, or why a ship performs X certain way or doesn't work X certain way. Because there's things that maybe right now you do not know, and it takes some time for you to actually find the right kind of information, right? There was one person who asked me specifically like, hey, I can't make the tier 4 Italian cruiser work. Why not? And I said, well, have you thought about just going full broadside in front of battleships? And he said, isn't that sort of counter to what everybody else says? And I'm like, yeah, except you realize that with the armor that you have at that tier, you could go full broadside in front of most battleships, and they will simply overpen your citadel. And that's knowledge that the person had no idea about. And of course, he came back later and he said, hey, look, that was really, really helpful. And one final thing. You might look at a lot of the Unicums, Super Unicums, whether it's on forums or Reddit or whatever, and, they speak with a very knowledgeable tone, and maybe you don't like that. Maybe you think that they're being overly cocky and things like that. But you know what? Those guys, they typically are the ones that are the most open to new ideas or new things that they didn't know about. They tend to be learners. They really are students of the game. So if you listen to things that they say, and again, it doesn't always have to be me, it could be other good players as well. If you read things on the forums or on Reddit or whatever, and it's somebody else who's posting, and they are good players, you should pay attention, because maybe what they're saying is very, very useful. Hell, there are times where I play ships in the game where my first couple of games in it is maybe not as good, and I'll sit there and I'll go, wait, is this ship really this bad, or is there actually something that I'm missing? And I'll typically look around, look at stats websites and track other people's stats and take a look, and hey, maybe I'm finding that top 5% of people are actually doing really well. Then I'll sit there and I'd be like, hey, I must be missing something. And then I'll scour for information, whether it is on forums or whatever, until I see something that is interesting or reasonable or, a new idea. And I'll go and experiment. I'll try it out, adjust my playstyle to suit these new things, and I'll see if it works for me. And I would strongly recommend that you do that as well. So that pretty much is bringing us to the close of the very first episode of How to Get Better at World of Warships. And as you can see, it doesn't really have much to do with mechanics at all. It is entirely a mindset thing. So fix that. and come and seek help. You can always leave me comments in the comment section like I mentioned earlier, and any help that you specifically need, I will look at it. I might not be able to respond to it right away. I might not even address it in the very next video, but I will try over the course of this series to try to address as many things as I humanly can. And hopefully by the time the whole thing is brought to an end, you will have a pretty good idea of how to make yourself a better player in this game. Because honestly, being a good player, it doesn't have to be competitive or whatnot, but being a good player, someone who is not a liability in the game to your team, to yourself, you will enjoy the game a whole lot more. And in the long run, that can only be better for this community as a whole. So I make a commitment to all of you. If you are willing to learn, if you're willing to embrace a growth mentality, if you're willing to admit that you don't know everything about this game, then I'm willing to teach you everything you do need to know in order to be better. Anyways, folks, take care of yourselves, have a good time, and of course, I will talk to all of you again really, really soon.